We recently had the chance to see a new TAEKOOK livestream, and as always, it wasn't just any old thing. From the moment it started, you could tell they were in their element, relaxed, enjoying themselves, and sharing in their own way, the way only they do. It was one of those moments where they don't need to say much, because the way they look at each other and how they carry themselves says it all. Every time they appear on a livestream, the same thing happens. TAEKOOK ends up silencing those who make up stories or doubt what's right in front of them. This one was no exception. They looked happy, with that connection they don't have with anyone else, making it clear that no matter what happens, they always end up together. Many remembered the previous livestream, the one where Taehyung sat on Jungkook's lap, a gesture that surprised everyone because not just anyone would dare to do it on camera, much less in such a natural way. This time they didn't repeat that moment, but the chemistry and energy were exactly the same. It doesn't matter how different the scenery or what they're doing changes, when they're together, they convey the same thing, that closeness they can't hide no matter how hard they try. What caught my attention most was when Jungkook said he'd planned to go out to eat with Taehyung. It wasn't a joke or something said lightly, it was clear they'd been thinking about it for a while, as part of their normal day. Added to that, they talked about how they no longer just train together, but have also started walking together, something so simple yet so meaningful when it comes from them. And the best part was that they even invited the army members to join them, as if they wanted to open a door for everyone to see a bit of that side of their lives. That detail didn't go unnoticed. Not everyone shares personal routines like that, much less something as intimate as going for a walk with someone. It's a gesture that shows how comfortable they are together and how they have no problem letting the world see a part of that. Those lucky enough to meet them on those walks will be able to experience what everyone else has already seen on screen, the way they take care of each other, how they talk to each other, how they listen to each other, and how they enjoy the simplest things, always side by side. And that's Taehyung. These aren't forced gestures or staged moments. It's something that flows, something that feels natural with each broadcast. They increasingly appear closer, more affectionate, more comfortable, and that's not something that can be made up. You can tell from the way Jungkook looks for Taehyung's gaze, from the way Taehyung smiles differently when he's with him, from the shared silences that aren't awkward, and from the private jokes that no one else understands. What this live broadcast made clear once again is that their relationship doesn't depend on what others say. No matter how many rumors they invent or how many theories they want to create, what they show together is abundantly clear. These aren't grand declarations or planned scenes, it is the sum of small details, those that when you put them together form an image that no one can deny. During Taehyung's last live, what almost always happened. While many enjoyed it for what it was, criticism also emerged, especially from some jungkook fans. As soon as the broadcast ended, they started saying that what we saw meant nothing, that Jungkook and Taehyung weren't even really together, and they even dared to compare him to a favorite. According to them, every time Jungkook does a live stream, his favorite always appears by his side, as if that were proof of something. They even went so far as to fabricate the idea that Jungkook refused to go out to eat with Taehyung because he supposedly had to respect a relationship with his favorite. And the truth is, those conclusions don't make sense. First, because not everything they do is shown on screen, and second, because Jungkook and Taehyung don't need to be glued to each other every minute to show what they have. Their relationship doesn't work like that. If they do live streams together, it's because they truly want to, not because someone forces them or because they have to explain themselves to the audience. And if they sometimes connect separately, like in this case, it's simply because each one was busy with their own things. Jungkook was training and Taehyung was eating. That doesn't mean there's a distance or that they don't spend time together, it just means they were at different times of their day. Regarding the supposed cancellation of the meal, there were also misunderstandings. It was said that Jungkook didn't want to go eat with Taehyung, but in reality, it was quite the opposite. The idea of going out to eat after training was Jungkook's, not Taehyung's. He was the one who suggested it, just like on other occasions when Jungkook has been the one to make the first move to organize plans. This clearly shows that there is initiative, interest, and a desire to spend time together. This is where the important thing lies. Taehyung doesn't need to be demonstrating things all the time. What they have can be seen in the small details. Often, these signs are the ones that confirm everything, because they appear naturally, without them looking for them. It doesn't matter if they're more active in one live or more relaxed in another, what they convey together is always the same kind of connection. People who doubt often focus on comparisons or what they want to believe, but the reality is simpler. Jungkook is where he wants to be. No one is forcing him to do live shows, to show himself with someone, or to share his routines. If he appears with Taehyung, it's because he feels it and because he wants to. There's no need to look for convoluted explanations when the actions speak for themselves. This last live show made that clear again. Although each one was doing something different, their interaction was natural, without tension and nothing strange. Jungkook was his usual self, willing to include Taehyung in his plans. And Taehyung, for his part, was equally relaxed, showing that the comfort that exists between them doesn't change even if they're not physically in the same place all the time. Besides, if we look back at their past moments, it's always been that way. Sometimes they appear together in front of the cameras, other times they share routines in private and then only let us see a portion. Not everything is shown, but enough is clear. Taehyung isn't something made up. They don't need to say it out loud, because they've already given too many signs pointing in the same direction. What really happens is that some people prefer to ignore the obvious. For those who want to believe, every live show is another confirmation. For those who don't, anything will serve as an excuse to deny what they see. But in the end, that doesn't change the reality. Jungkook and Taehyung continue walking together, sharing moments and showing a relationship that is sustained by the everyday, the simple, and the real. Something that always draws attention when we talk about Taehyung is the way they understand each other without needing to say anything. There are those who still think that everything that happens between them is fan service, as if everything was staged for the camera, but the reality is that the difference is noticeable. A staged show is one thing, and what you see when Taehyung and Jungkook are together is quite another. The naturalness they have can't be rehearsed or faked. Anyone who has seen them live knows this. They don't need long words or speeches. A glance, a small gesture, a smile, or even a shared silence is enough. That way of communicating always appears, and no matter how many times it happens, it never feels like something made up. It's simply part of who they are. Of course, there are people who prefer to look the other way. For those who believe in Taehyung, each appearance is further confirmation of what they already know. For those who don't, any excuse will do to deny what they're seeing. But the truth is that these opinions don't change anything. Jungkook and Taehyung continue to share their lives, they continue to show that closeness, and they do so in everyday, simple things. The interesting thing is that their relationship isn't sustained by what they say, but by what they do without thinking. When they're close, everything about them changes naturally. They look for each other with their eyes. They touch each other as if it were the most normal thing in the world. They approach him without fear or hesitation. And they do it so often, in so many different contexts, that it no longer feels like an isolated gesture, but rather part of their way of living together. For example, in past live shows, we've seen how Jungkook takes care of every detail when Taehyung is by his side. It can be something as simple as handing him something to eat, straightening his clothes, or inviting him out after training. These are small actions, but they speak volumes. In the same way, Taehyung responds with gestures that show trust, leaning on him, sitting close, or looking at him with that tranquility that needs no explanation. These are habits that are repeated and have gradually become normal for them. That's what makes many people not see it as a simple spectacle. Because a show is prepared for a specific moment, but what they show appears all the time, regardless of whether there are thousands of people watching or if they're in a quieter situation. Their gestures are too sincere and consistent to think they're part of a script. Some people still say it's all a coincidence, that they only do it because they know there are cameras. But the truth is that when you see them up close, when you observe each interaction, you realize there's no such thing as a coincidence. No one maintains the same naturalness over and over again if it's not real. If Jungkook approaches Taehyung with confidence, if Taehyung smiles differently when he's with him, if they look for each other even in silences, that's not acting, it's habit. Besides, it's not a single moment or a single broadcast. We've seen it at concerts, in interviews, on programs, and even on casual broadcasts. No matter where they are, the dynamic repeats itself. The way they look at each other, the way they share simple things, the trust they have in each other, it always shows, and that's what makes Taehyung so powerful. Those who don't accept it will continue to invent theories, compare themselves to other people, or seek explanations that don't exist. But the truth is, there's nothing to invent. Jungkook and Taehyung don't need to explain what they have, because they already show it in every gesture. There's no need for big words or public declarations. Their true colors are evident in the simplest and most human aspects.